Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You are here with Austin from Ohio, and today is Wednesday, April 28th, 2021. As you can already tell, I am back to using a phone for now to make videos, which I'm not that mad about. Just a couple things have been going on the past couple days. Ever since I appealed to get my videos back, which I'm very happy about, by the way. And I'm also sad that I had to delete about 20 videos in total. I deleted on across all my channels. I mean, at the time, it was something that I felt I needed to do. Hindsight being 2020, I wish I would not have done that, but it's okay, because better safe than sorry, as I've explained in the one video that I also deleted. So we'll just pick it up again from where we were the last time. I got 2 videos back after I appealed. Of course, you all know this because I made a video about it. I was pretty happy about it. But for some reason, I still have 1 community guideline strike. At first, I didn't understand, but then when I looked further into it, it was because when I got a video taken down, and then I got another one taken down right after that, and the first one I got taken down, I got a strike for. But then, the second one, they gave me a warning because I was already on a suspension. So they said they're not going to give me another strike. And the video that I appealed and the appeal was granted, it just so happened to be the one that was the warning after the strike, if that makes sense. It's the way that they do it. We already know how they feel about us in general in the first place, so I'll take it as a win, because I shouldn't even be posting on this channel right now. I should be suspended for 2 weeks and set up for termination. I also tried to appeal some on my main channel, but they were all denied. All 3 of them were denied. So it was worth a shot. The reason I'm not making videos on my computer right now is because I tried to make 3 videos on my computer, and for some reason the internet keeps really acting up. My mobile hotspot's not working. That's what I usually use. The Wi-Fi's not even really working that well. Only whenever I make videos. And then I tried to make a video, and then I went to upload it, and then it was gone. Just gone. Been getting a lot of ads in Japanese, Portuguese, Arab. A lot of weird emails. Just a lot of weird stuff has been going on. I don't have any proof to prove that I'm being messed with, but I feel like I'm being messed with. What do you guys think? Anyway, so for now we're going to do this on a phone because it won't lag and I will be able to put it up. It won't go up as fast, but it'll still go up regardless. This first one that I have for you guys is from Newsweek, and it reads, Americans under 30 have rapidly turned against gun control laws. Poll finds. Again, any one of you ever get contacted about this poll? Because I haven't. And if people are turning against gun control laws, that's great. That's perfect. That's exactly what we need, is people in opposition to what they're trying to do. We'll go ahead and read this. And this was posted up today. 50% of Americans overall say they view the enacting of new anti-gun violence laws and firearm restrictions as a top legislative priority. But among young Americans under 30, there was a 20% drop in support since 2018. A new ABC News Washington Post poll released Tuesday from among more than 1,000 U.S. adults found that Americans overall are less supportive of new gun control legislations than they were just 3 years ago. People between the ages of 18 to 29 saw the sharpest decline in backing for new weapons laws, with fewer than half now saying new legislation is needed to reduce the risk of future mass shootings or to block red flag buyers. In April 2018, the last time the ABC Washington Post survey was conducted on this issue, 65% of these young Americans said they support gun control laws. That percentage is now 45. Would you think that it had something to do with what happened all last year? Excuse me. All last year, people were buying guns. That's all you heard. People buying guns as, well, the whole situation just was out of control, and people started to see what was going on. So people started going out to buy guns to protect themselves and their families. I don't blame anybody for doing that. Not one bit. Not one bit. But that's why people are finally starting to oppose these gun control laws, because only in the face of crises do they understand the importance of the right to keep and bear arms. The most important freedom and amendment is the first, only protected by the second. Massive ideological divides have remained between Democrats and Republicans, with 3/4 of Republicans saying they prioritize the protection of their right to own firearms. And on the other end of the spectrum, 83% of Democrats and self-identified liberals say they want President Joe Biden to prioritize more gun control laws. And of course, this is just same old Hegelian dialectic, problem, reaction, solution, my team's better than your team. Nonsense. Of course, they're going to keep going back and forth, and then when they finally agree on a bill or whatever, they'll pass it, because they'll say, okay, we came to a conclusion. And they'll say, Democrats and Republicans both came up with this, and we're doing this for Americans, and we love you guys, and believe us. And everybody will be like, see, they work together. This is common sense. Every single time, it is an infringement. And that's the ultimate goal. World gun control in the hands of centralized international authority. None of us peons will be allowed to have any firearms for personal protection or protection of people around you. Not at all. The preference for enacting new gun laws aimed at reducing firearm violence has dropped by 7% overall since the last corresponding survey was conducted in April of 2018. Percentage drops were seen in nearly every demographic divide. In that time period, 20% of Hispanics pulled back from supporting new gun laws, falling to 50%. 17% of rural Americans now said they want no new gun restrictions, down 17 points to 30%. The percentage of, quote, strong conservatives who said they would get behind new gun laws also fell to nearly single digits, down 17 points in 3 years since the last survey. Let me ask you something. Since this is going on, and support for new gun control laws are falling nationwide, do you think they're probably going to have to orchestrate more of these events in order to help turn the minds of the people against the right to keep and bear arms? I would say that that is most definitely going to happen. And this just goes on to say that, you know, support for gun laws has declined. I don't want to spend too much time on this one, but I personally think they're setting up for something, and I'm going to show you why. It'll all make sense. Let's go to the next one. All right, this one is from Vox, and this was 2 days ago. The Supreme Court will hear a major Second Amendment case that could gut U.S. gun laws. The Supreme Court could make the NRA's dreams come true. It already starts off with Trump-appointed justices from left, Amy Coney Barrett, Brett Kavanaugh, Neil Gorsuch. So they've already got it set up to play the left-right game. It's already set up to do that. Anyway. Supreme Court announced on Monday that it will hear New York State Rifle and Pistol Association Incorporated versus Corlett, a case that could transform the judiciary's understanding of the Second Amendment and lay waste to many of the nation's gun laws. The case involves New York State's handgun licensing law, a law that has been in place since 1913, which requires someone who wishes to carry a handgun in public to demonstrate proper cause in order to obtain a license permitting them to do so. Obviously, you guys know what I believe. I believe that you should never have to ask permission. Free men don't ask permission. But the context in which they're doing this, okay, let me tell you what's going to happen. Think about the last article I just read you. Now think about the lower support for gun control laws. And now this one, the Supreme Court might, quote, lay waste to the nation's gun laws. Think about if they redefine what gun laws are in the United States and they start laxing some of them. Also, the same goes for, like, in Ohio, they passed, Stand Your Ground. To me, that is a trap. One, because any law written are laws against your freedom. Because if there's no law written up, then you have that freedom. It's not infringed upon. But the more corrupt the nation, the more numerous the laws. So the more laws they make, the more your freedom is restricted. That's how it works. I believe it's a setup. Like the Stand Your Ground. They say, oh, it extends outside now. You don't have a duty to retreat anymore. You can stop a crime or do this and that. But the language in it is very, very deliberate. There was a case one time where this guy, he was like real lunatic. He was going crazy. Nobody on his street liked him or in the town. He always carried a gun around. He used it in a threatening manner. Not the way you're supposed to go about it at all, whatsoever. The neighbors were having a party for their daughter, I believe. She was a little girl. And they were in a fenced-in yard and whatnot. And this guy walked up there on... This is on audio recording, by the way. He called 911 and he said that he is standing his ground. He literally called. He said, I'm standing my ground. I'm being attacked or something like that. And then he killed the father, injured the mother, and a couple other people there he shot. Well, he got away with it because of the Stand Your Ground laws in, I think it was Texas. I don't want to be wrong. I'm not sure. But in this case, here's a guy who obviously he wants to hurt people. They were having a party over there. He didn't like the noise. He went over there. He called 911. He said he's standing his ground. He shot people on their own property. Got away with it because of the Stand Your Ground laws and the language in it. This stuff here is a setup. What they're going to do is they're going to just give the appearance that the nation is relaxing its gun laws and support is going down for gun control laws, and Supreme Court is hearing this case and this and that because it's a lose the battle, win the war type scenario. So right now they take a loss. They lack some of the laws. But then once people go out there not understanding what this is all about actually, and they go and they start carrying guns around, and bad people do bad things, of course. And people start seeing these laws and they're like, oh, I could stand my ground. I could do this and that. Then there's going to be an uptick in certain events. And also, you have to understand that they can orchestrate them. Then they can come back and say, oh, the Supreme Court precedent on this, and people are out here doing this even more, and we need tougher gun laws and a full confiscation now. What do you want to bet it would work? It's incredibly multifaceted. It's incredibly multi-layered. It always is. These people understand human psychology so well that they know that doing these things and putting them out there will give people a sense of personal security and will give them a sense of, oh, I can go out and do more things, in accordance with what we're talking about here. And in the long run, they can use that and attempt a total confiscation, which I'm sure they will at some point in the future. But it just goes on to say proper cause can be demonstrated in several ways. Someone who wishes to use a gun for hunting or target practice may obtain a license permitting them to do so. Although this type of license can be restricted to only allow the bearer to use their gun for these purposes. People in certain kinds of work may also obtain licenses. A storekeeper might be issued a limited license, blah, 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 blah. Really just wanted to bring this up to show you guys because I want to get to something else. It's rather long. But what they're going to do probably is they're going to rule on this, and they're going to say that New Yorkers or whoever now can carry guns without a license, which is the way it should be. But after so long of needing a license, and the way human psychology works, when you finally don't, people who wouldn't have in the first place are going to want to carry. And people are, stressed out at this time. And things will happen that they can highlight, throw out there in the media, and even orchestrate certain things in order to get what they want in the long run, which they will do. But we'll have to keep an eye on this here. The Supreme Court case, I will be keeping an eye on this, but we all should. And we need to be very watchful of what the powers that should not be are doing. Moving on. Okay. This one is sort of long, but the other thing I wanted to show you is pretty long too. We'll see how far we get into this. We've all been hearing about the food shortages. The elites are talking about it. They're also talking about the water shortage. Of course, they're going to talk about this stuff because they need to use this as a weapon. Henry Kissinger said, if you control the food, you control the people. And he also said, if you control oil, you control nations. But that's neither here nor there. They are going to use food as a weapon. We've all known this. It's one of the main weapons that have always been used against people in order to get them to do what you want them to do. And they just so happen to control the food supply. But this says, food shortages coming. New World Order, great food supply reset is here. And we didn't get to that part in the book on the live stream, but it was in the book. It does talk about how food is going to be scarce and this and that. And just, it's really starting to materialize in real life now. Just you can see the results of the reset and how far reaching the tentacles are. Because Agenda 21 is a international agenda to be implemented on the local level. Food shortages are coming, folks. It's all part of the New World Order's Great Reset, the fundamental transformation of our world through the consolidation of power under a global technocracy, including the global food supply and distribution networks. The clock is ticking, and there is very little time left to prepare yourself for the engineered crises on our doorstep. In this article, we're going to examine some of the neon signs pointing to this imminent reality. Food shortages are coming. As we frequently assert, we are facing a perfect storm, one that not only applies to our socioeconomic framework, but to the world's food supply and distribution network as well. We not only have a dwindling food supply and exploding demand, but the global elites are implementing a New World Order agenda via the Great Reset, A reset that seeks to radically transform our global food supply. We basically already know exactly what they're setting up. People can deny it all they want. I get people still to this day that I talk to at work, out and about at the store. I'll even make a little comment. I'll be like, yeah, it's all part of the reset. And they'll be like, huh? A reset? What's that? And I'll start telling them about it, and they'll be like, oh, you watch too much TV. You're crazy. We know better than that. In the name of climate change and radical environmentalism, these elites are focused on eliminating animal agriculture and transitioning our traditional food sources to synthetic lab-created food products. That's true. How many commercials do you see for Impossible Meat or the other ones? It's all about control. The establishment of a global technocracy led by a shadow group of enlightened, that's what they call themselves, global elites. And one of the primary tools for control has always been the food supply. If you control the food, you control the people, or as the old proverb phrases it, the way to a man's heart is through his stomach. The warning indicators are all flashing red, and the pull-up alarms are blaring in the cockpit for those with eyes to see and ears to hear. Our plane is in a graveyard spiral, and we are mere moments from an intentional impact with the ground below. One day we're going to wake up, and it is going to be, I don't even want to think about what it's going to be. I really don't even want to think about what it's going to be here soon, because they're really turning it up with the societal reset, just the macro reset in general. All that stuff you see on TV, all the race stuff, the division stuff, that's literally only to keep you occupied. That's why I barely cover it. Sometimes I will, just to show what narrative they're saying, but I barely cover it because that's all it's meant to do. To keep us running on that hamster wheel and fighting each other and destroying each other and our towns and whatnot, like the, quote, useful idiots are doing. And it says, we sincerely hope that you have established an appropriate stock of emergency food for your family. But if not, our hope is that this article will serve to encourage you to do so while you still can. I can't sit here and tell you guys to go stock up on food because I don't have any food stocked up. I don't. I have water stocked, but we don't have a food supply stocked up. I don't know why I never did it. I probably should, but I really don't know why we ever did it. Okay, so UK admits food shortage is possible, but tells citizens not to stockpile food. Yeah, how nice is that? England, your government is telling you, oh, don't stockpile food, even though food shortages are coming. Come on. Before we delve into the broader food supply crisis, I want to share what's going on in Britain because it shows the depth and breadth of the New World Order agenda to fundamentally transform the food supply and distribution networks. The global elites are leveraging both natural forces, e.g. droughts, and geopolitical opportunities to implement their transformative agenda. And Brexit has provided them with a major regional opportunity when it comes to the food supply. If it can happen in the UK, it can happen in your neck of the woods. That's the truth. Especially here in the United States. If something happens in the United Kingdom, you best believe it can happen here. And will. British grocery stores have reportedly been told by government ministers to stockpile food. Non-perishable goods and other essential supplies in anticipation of shortages created by a no-deal scenario as Brexit trade deal negotiations between the EU and UK go down to the wire. Furthermore, the government has also told suppliers of medicines, medical devices, and V's stockpile 6 weeks worth at secure locations in the UK. The UK's Department for Environment, Food, Rural Affairs reported that the government is working with the food industry to support in case of potential food supply chain disruptions, adding, "We are in regular contact with the food industry to support its preparations for a range of scenarios. We will continue to work closely with them to ensure people across the country have the food and supplies they need." Oh, what do you know? FEMA is hiring. What a nice ad. Look at this. Make up to $2,800.12 per, or $2,812 per paycheck. Get out of here. I would never work for those people. Jeez. Give me a break, man. This is in response to a widespread warnings from business leaders about possible fresh food shortages, potential delays to deliveries from the EU, and significant price increases. John Allen, chairman of Tesco, Britain's largest supermarket group, asserted that higher food prices were, quote, unavoidable in the event of a no deal, and warned that consumers should expect food prices to rise 3 to 5% on average, while urging shoppers not to panic buy. And they said, "We may see some shortages of fresh foods, particularly short-life fresh foods. I think that will only be for a limited period, perhaps a month or two, before we get back to normal." In other words, there is likely to be shortages of fresh foods for 1 or 2 months, but no worries, it's all good. Don't even think about trying to prepare your family. Here's something that you should do. If the government tells you you don't need something, you need it. Be it anything, food, water, defense mechanisms, it don't matter. Gasoline, you need it. Echoing the less reassuring thoughts of Allen, Helen Dickinson, chief executive of the British Retail Consortium, stated, quote, "While no amount of preparation by retailers can entirely prevent disruption, there is no need for the public to buy more food than usual." The BRC exhorted citizens not to stockpile food, arguing that, quote, "Shops have plenty of supplies." This, of course, begs the question, if there are plenty of supplies, then why warn that shoppers must not buy more food than usual? And of course, when you go into a store like, I'm not sure what they have in the UK, but here in the US, we have like Walmart, Target. I'm not sure if Target sells food. Well, like Aldi's, Food Lion, things like that. Oh, Frank. You guys know Frank. Oh, I can't wait to see what that's about. He said they're telling us to actively fight each other now. And then he sent me a video. I'm going to have to watch. I'll tell you guys about it. I'm sure they are. They're going to keep telling us to fight each other. That's what this whole agenda has been since the start of this thing and before. But what I was saying is, if you go into these shops and they're stocked, yes, you can see that they are stocked. But what happens if no trucks can come? How long does that little tiny bit of food in there last with all the people in your neighborhood? In a real scenario. Not long. And the British Business Secretary, Alok Sharma, also warned Brits not to stockpile food, proclaiming that he's very confident that actually the supply chains will still be in place. I would say to everyone, do your normal shopping as you would do, and I think we'll find we're going to be absolutely fine. No need to panic, nothing to see here. Trust your government and experts. Move along like normal, obedient sheeple, and everything will be just fine. Or at least he thinks. And let's just skip past this stuff with the British here. Here we go. We'll just see it here. As we see, it is not just the UK that is facing food shortages, but the entire, they use globe, we'll say world, the entire world. There are no coincidences. We are progressing down a carefully designed, well thought out, highly detailed plot. One the globalists have been developing for years and even decades. Oh yes, they've been developing this for a long time. And we've been telling people, and they just don't Don't want to hear it. When I see most people, I think of an ostrich with their head in the ground or up their ass, either one. They use globalists, I'll say elites. The elites are using every opportunity at their disposal, whether Brexit, natural disasters, climate change, or the P, to disrupt global economies, including the food supply and distribution channels. This carefully orchestrated campaign is intended to increase dependence on government and transition those governments from nationalist orientation to a world one. It's all about control by the enlightened elites who know better than the commoners, at least what they believe. One of their strategies behind Agenda 21, Agenda 2030 is to reshape, transform the world's food supply. In fact, one of their high priority objectives is to entirely bring an end to animal agriculture in favor of artificial food sources, which of course is entirely controlled by the elites through public-private partnerships with global corporations rather than small local independent farmers and ranchers. Let's move on from the UK and explore the food supply crisis through the lens of soybeans that's about to manifest itself around the globe in shortages. Soybean shortage reveals imminent global food supply crisis. Having looked at the threat of food shortages in the UK, primarily a product of political manipulation, let's broaden our perspective and examine the clear and present danger that exists with regard to the global food supply. Food shortages are coming, and soybeans provide a critical warning that we would all be wise to recognize and react to. On December 10th, the USDA dramatically cut its view on domestic soybean stocks, stating that U.S. soybean supplies will be smaller than previously forecast due to rising demand from domestic processors. Mike McGinnis, writing for Successful Farming, aptly noted in November that the USDA was already warning that the U.S. is leaking corn and soybeans as ending stocks tighten. This is all by design, by the way. Initial projections for 2020-21 ending soybean stocks were estimated to be 405 million bushels. By October, the USDA estimate had fallen to just 290 million bushels. In November, that shrank to 190 million bushels. Now in December, the USDA is expecting the year-end stocks to fall to 179 million bushels. This was as of December 2020, so what do you think it is now? John Perkins, writing for Brownfield Attorney AG News, reflected on this sobering news and echoed the thoughts of McGinnis by noting that, quote, U.S. corn and soybean ending stocks projections have rapidly gotten tighter. Perkins continued to sound the alarm by warning that, according to Allendale's chief strategist Rich Nelson, crop loss and stronger than expected demand, viz. China, have cut the guesses for both crops by about 50%, adding, quote, these are widely different than we expected at the start of the year, and certainly quite different than what we expected as recently as June, and no, we don't have a good amount of historical precedence for this. In other words, we have a lot less of these crops in our stockpiles than the experts guessed that we did. And yet, we continue to sell these stockpiles to China at historical levels. China's sucking up the soybean market like colossal vacuum cleaner. Think they just might know something? Yeah, and as everybody knows, China is the model of what the New World Order is going to be. They implemented in China first. Completely. Not just introduce it, implement it. See how it goes, and then the rest of the world. While there have been regional shortages in the past, we're now facing a global shortage. The market cannot shift to meet the skyrocketing demand given the shrinking supply. As usage begins to exceed supply, we quickly witness wide-ranging food and feed shortages, as well as never before seen inflationary price pressure. I'm actually going to stop reading this one right here because I want to get to something else. But they're manufacturing this food shortage. Then they can come out and use their Soylent Green, Impossible Beef, Bill Gates backed stuff to be the solution to the entire world's food problem. Nobody will ever have to go hungry again. Isn't that what they said when Monsanto started with their GMO seeds? Didn't they say that nobody would ever have to go hungry again? But people got hungrier, and a lot more people are going without food now than before then. Because it was about controlling the world's food supply. Let's move on. Alright, now we're getting into the good stuff. This was 2 days ago. And it's pretty much just, well, you'll see. This is the Great Reset, Davos playbook for a post-situation world. For decades, the World Economic Forum has been trying to influence global policy in favor of the world's financial super elite. Thanks to the global crisis unleashed by the situation and lockdowns, it may finally have found a way to do it. Series note: we are in the middle of an unprecedented crisis as the situation and the lockdowns implemented in response continue to deliver a series of economic, social, and psychological shocks to the world. In this time of chaos, some of the world's most powerful interest groups have stepped forward claiming that this crisis presents an opportunity to reset the world's systems. Leading the charge is the Geneva-based World Economic Forum with its Great Reset initiative, an ambitious plan to shape the contours of the post-situation world. This 3-part series critically examines the origin, workings, and implications of the Great Reset agenda, which its critics have denounced as the corporate capture of global governance and the global commons. The second part traces the origins of the Great Reset, setting it in the context of the WEF's own history and its persistent efforts to influence world affairs on behalf of its corporate sponsors. Yes, and the reset is means to an end, and that end is their long-sought Luciferian one world government, which we should all be opposing. I heard people said that they're for a world government. I would be for it too if it was, freedom and constitution like we have here in its original form, as it's stated. That would be a good governing document for the entire world. Not what these people are setting up. No. In their world, none of us are going to be alive. They don't want people like us. The World Economic Forum, a non-profit based in Geneva, states its mission as being, quote, committed to improving the state of the world by engaging business, political, academic, and other leaders of society. Sorry, I paused, guys. I got a really bad cramp in my calf. Like, as soon as I was reading that, you might have heard me, like, when I was just talking the last sentence. I got a really, really bad cramp. It, came out of nowhere. It felt like I was, shocked. Anyway, to shape global, regional, and industry agendas. Over the years, the annual WEF meeting held at Davos Klosters, a Swiss mountain resort, has emerged as the world's most prestigious gathering for its financial, technological, and political elites. And this is the video we've all seen that they put out, introducing the Great Reset. The list of attendees for Davos 2021 event was held virtually. Reads like no other. Counting in it just about every major head of state from Donald Trump to Narendra Modi, heads of major multilateral organizations, some of the world's biggest investors, representative of major banking firms, leading lights from the world of economics, technology, and law, as well as top executives of Fortune 500 companies, all of which, incidentally, are official partners of the World Economic Forum. Yeah, so all you Trump people still holding on to that, your dude laid the foundation for this. He allowed this to take shape in our world. Nobody can see that to this day. It's crazy. Crazy. In a display of the World Economic Forum's global reach, the event was accompanied by virtual events in 430 cities across the world, pulling in thousands more attendees. Later that year, as the world reeled from a series of unprecedented blows in the form of the situation, lockdowns, and the resultant social and economic crises, the World Economic Forum stepped into the vacuum created by these events to announce its Great Reset initiative, the single most decisive and ambitious attempt by any organization to shape the contours of the post-lockdown world. In other words, this is their perfect opportunity, and they're taking it. And I will keep telling people, they're taking this opportunity. They're implementing the New World Order right in front of us and telling you about it openly. Literally. What's so great about the Great Reset? Officially, the World Economic Forum describes the Great Reset as a, quote, commitment to jointly and urgently build the foundations of our economic and social system for a more fair, sustainable, and resilient future. On the surface, this seems like a commendable attempt to give direction and focus to the world in a time of chaos. Such is the vision articulated by Klaus Schwab, founder and executive chairman of the World Economic Forum, which held its 2021 summit on the theme of the Great Reset. According to Schwab, in a world beset by a host of economic, social, and environmental challenges, the situation has shown us that our old systems are not fit anymore for the 21st century. The first part of that literally saying that, the old way of doing things is no more. We need a new government, a new world government, a new world order of doing things. We have to restore a functioning system of smart global cooperation structured to address the challenges of the next 50 years. He called for the world to act jointly and swiftly to revamp all aspects of our societies and economies, from education to social contracts, working conditions. Every country from the United States to China must participate, and every industry from oil and gas to tech must be transformed. In short, we need a great reset of capitalism. That last sentence should read, we need a great reset from capitalism, because they're taking us away from that. No more capitalism. Echoing these sentiments, Prince Charles, who announced the event along with Schwab, said, quote, in order to secure our future and to prosper, we need to evolve our economic model and put people and planet at the heart of global value creation. Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations, chimed in. The Great Reset is a welcome recognition that as human tragedy must be a wake-up call. We must build more equal, inclusive, and sustainable economies and societies that are more resilient in the face of pandemics, climate change, and the many other global challenges we face. Global challenges that, again, they've contrived. Problem, reaction, solution. It's what it is. In many ways, this rhetoric is indistinguishable from the language of the bland do-goodism found in the proceedings of the UN or reports by international NGOs. But beyond rhetoric, what does the Great Reset have in store for the world, at least as its originators would have it? The game plan. How does World Economic Forum imagine it would actually work itself out in terms, policies, and institutional and structural changes? Here's how Schwab, who has personally conceptualized the Great Reset and has even published a book on explaining his ideas, describes three main components. Stakeholder economy. The first component consists of government policies that would steer the market toward fairer outcomes, ultimately to build a stakeholder economy. This calls for, among other things, improved government coordination, for example, in tax, regulatory, and fiscal policy. New rules governing intellectual property, trade, and competition, and reforms that promote more equitable outcomes, such as wealth taxes. Shared goals. The second component of the Great Reset agenda is to ensure that investments advance shared goals that benefit the world at large. Among other things, this calls for the ambitious economic stimulus plans announced by most major countries, as well as investments from private entities and pension funds to be used to build a new socially equitable and environmentally sustainable global economy that works in the long term. Technology governance. The third priority of the Great Reset is to manage and direct the fourth industrial revolution so that its disruptive impacts are minimized and its benefits maximized. Among other things, the WEF calls for greater collaboration between governments, corporations, universities, research institutions, etc. to achieve this. The World Economic Forum's advocacy of the Fourth Industrial Revolution, or Industry 4.0, was covered in detail in the first part of the series. The Great Reheat. Schwab's book outlining his vision of the Great Reset has been touted as the first policy book on the situation globally. But given how comprehensively it deals with just about every aspect of governance and the economy, it's clear there's more to it than meets the eye. I'll say, not surprising then, that it was published as early as June 2020, when the world was still reeling from the lockdowns. It's actually a much reheated dish, which recycles many of the ideas Schwab and World Economic Forum had been championing for decades through a number of publications and events over the years. Of special interest among these is a 600-page report released as part of the WEF's Global Redesign Initiative, organized along with the United Nations in the aftermath of the 2008 financial crisis and described as the most comprehensive proposal for redesigning global governance since the formulation of the UN. This is literally their greatest attempt at this. And it's actually the right time for them to do this, just based on, well, how primed the society is and the mentality of the modern man. You know, the lazy, everything is mine, narcissism. Look at me, 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 me. I don't care about anybody else. I don't care about my fellow man. I don't care about my country, my world. I don't care about any of it. I only care about myself and what makes me feel good in the moment. It's incredibly humanist what we are dealing with. These people that are around today, they are perfect New World Order citizens. They will do what they're told, when they're told, with no lip. No lip. All of the WEF's proposals have more or less the same official line: a radical transformation of the global systems in line with new technological, political, and environmental realities. What is never mentioned is that this transformation, conceived and promoted by technocrats such as Schwab, and sponsored by global financial powers whose interests it is meant to serve, is to be executed top-down, ignoring democratic norms and bypassing parliament and other public institutions, a process euphemistically called public-private partnership. Literally global fascism. There's no two ways about it. It is global fascism. Global, totalitarian, fascist, socialist government. Throw communism in there. All of it. The Great Reset in action. The WF's high-profile but exclusive annual Davos event, now the top draw for political and policy leaders around the globe. It's the most significant conduit through which the organization influences government policies worldwide. Thanks to the intense media buzz it creates around these events, they also play a huge role in influencing the general public with the ideas it wants to promote. At the moment, WEF is actively injecting the idea of the Great Reset into the mainstream through slickly produced video features and podcasts targeting the general public. Apart from major features in such favored outlets as The Economist and Time Magazine, in fact, Time's special issue on Davos 2020 was produced in partnership with the World Economic Forum. Not coincidentally, Times owner Mark Benioff sits on the WEF board. What do you know about that? Because all these people are interconnected. All the media moguls, corporations, the heads of state, all of them, they all sit on these international boards like CFR, Trilateral Commission, World Economic Forum, the Bilderberg. Literally, the world government is already formed. It's already in action. They just haven't declared it openly to us yet. I feel like we're going to find out the hard way, though. The World Economic Forum is also increasingly playing hands-on role when it comes to the implementation of its agenda through a range of strategic partnerships and affiliate programs such as Global Shapers, Young Global Leaders, and Uplink Platform, which cover not just manufacturing and trade, but every field from governance to agriculture to health. A particularly ambitious effort is its Fourth Industrial Revolution Network, which opened its India Center in Mumbai in 2018. Partnership with NITI Aayog, India's apex planning body, explicitly defining its mission as to co-design, test, and refine governance protocols and policy frameworks that enable Industry 4.0. Corporate capture of global governance. The true significance of the Great Reset cannot be understood without knowing the history and agenda of its originator. The WEF started in life in 1971 as the European Management Forum, the brainchild of Schwab, then a business professor at the University of Geneva. It later broadened its invitee list to include political leaders and its agenda to include resolving international conflicts. Afterwards, it introduced a membership system for the world's 1,000 leading companies, and in 1987 changed its name to the World Economic Forum. Even though it claims to be independent, impartial, and not tied to any special interests, by way of disclaimer, the fact is the WEF organization is the premier mouthpiece for global financial and corporate elites today. Truth. It's a central player in a tightly knit web of privately funded mega nonprofits, think tanks, and assorted lobbying organizations through which the world's power elites seek to shape policies and events to their advantage. We all know this. We all know that these people are all interconnected. We know that they all play for the same team. We know that they all want the same goal, which is, again, one world government. You can literally tie it all back. All you got to do is follow your thoughts out to the logical conclusion. That's it. However, the World Economic Forum is not just an industry lobbying group. It could be argued that especially in the last decade or so, the Davos events have almost become a de facto world parliament, eclipsing even the UN General Assembly meetings in the breadth and depth of influence and prestige it commands. I would say that's also true. Who's spearheading the reset? I mean, it doesn't really matter who is spearheading it because they don't put all of their eggs in one basket. They learned not to do that a long time ago. Not content to project itself as a kind of faux UN for plutocrats, in 2019, the WEF went one step ahead and signed a memorandum of understanding to officially partner with the UN. That's nice. The move was widely condemned by hundreds of leading civil society organizations who denounced it as corporate capture of global governance, which they said delegitimizes the UN and weakens the role of states in global decision-making. That's the point. To weaken nation-states. Nation-states will not exist. The world will recognize a single authority. Furthermore, they point out the agreement grants transnational corporations, not coincidentally, all WEF members preferential access to the UN system at the expense of states and public interest actors. A key component of the agreement are a set of public-private partnerships that globally deliver public goods in many fields, including education, financing, climate change, and health. The World Economic Forum calls itself the International Organization for Public-Private Cooperation. As it turns out, their use of definite article "the" is more significant than it appears. One commentator recalled how WEF's Global Redesign Initiative report had recommended a sort of public-private United Nations, something that has now been formalized in this MOU. Backed as it is by the full weight of some of the world's most powerful financial interests and technology corporations, the Great Reset is more than a theoretical construct of techno-fantasy woven on the magic mountain of Davos. And given the evident compliance of political and policy elites to this agenda, it very much has the power to remake the world in its image. Think about that last sentence. To remake the world in its image. The elites, they want to remake the world in their image because, well, they see themselves as gods. They see themselves as literally just that, as gods, to remake the world in their image and to rule over man. Not just as leaders, no, as gods. They will have all the control and nobody will be able to rise up ever again. That's how they see it. But what they don't know is that they are also very deceived and they will be cut down at a time decided by the Lord, which is the way that it's going to work. But in this world, we're going to have to go through some things first. And people don't understand there's no freedom when it comes to this world here. We want to show you one more thing and then I have to end this. I showed this before in one of my other videos, but it got taken down, of course. Take a look at this. This is the UN's website, un.org. United Nations Trust Fund for Human Security. The first thing you probably notice is the all-seeing eye pyramid right in front of you. Freedom from want. Freedom from fear. Freedom to live in dignity. Sounds alright, right? What I read is freedom from want. Oh, you won't want anything anymore because we will provide everything for you. You shall never want. Freedom from fear. Oh, you don't have to fear anymore. There is no more fear. Everybody is happy. You own nothing. You have no freedom. So people can't get access to things to hurt you. Freedom to live in dignity. As in, who defines dignity? Your dignity is different from my dignity, of course. And see, what's new? But about this trust fund. The UNTFHS finance programs that translate the human security approach to practical actions and provide concrete and sustainable benefits to vulnerable people and communities threatened in their survival, livelihood, and dignity. Human security is an approach to assist member states in identifying and addressing widespread, cross-cutting challenges to survival, livelihood, and dignity of their people. It's very, very weird that this is called, and there's actually a human security unit. I actually lost my other one. Maybe I can find it real quick. I couldn't find the one that I had earlier, but this right here will have to do. The UNDP Human Development Report of 94. Now, this is the original one, but they started up again, really working on this stuff. Now, I thought it was kind of weird because it focuses on the people. The same document points out the term security has long been interpreted too narrowly. Oh, Tim's got a new video up. We'll watch that after a minute. Oh, where was I at? Interpreted too narrowly used in the context of security of territory from external aggression, and thus this suggests that human security involves much more than just the absence of conflict. This formally shifts the emphasis from state security to human security. The report further qualifies human security as safely safety from chronic threats such as hunger, disease, and repression, as well as protection from sudden and harmful disruptions in the patterns of daily life, whether in homes, jobs, or communities. Then they got economic security, food security, health security, environmental, personal, community, and political security. Now, if they're going to be able to protect you from sudden and harmful disruptions in the patterns of daily life, whether in your home, your job, or your communities, won't they need these guys right here? And they're currently hiring for this, by the way, jobs for disarmament, demobilization, and reintegration. Senior Political Affairs Officer, New York, updated 15 hours ago. Call for application. Consultant to develop a national toolkit on preventing violent extremism and disarmament, demobilization, reintegration, screening, prosecution, rehabilitation, and reintegration in Nigeria. Administrative assistant in New York. Let's see what other kind of jobs they have open right now, because they're hiring these guys in New York too. You could go read about all this here. 20 years of NTI building a safer world. United Nations Office of Disarmament Affairs. Office of Disarmament Affairs provides a substantive and organizational support to member states in the area of disarmament through the work of General Assembly and its first committee, the Disarmament Commission, the Conference on Disarmament, and other bodies. It fosters preventative disarmament measures such as dialogue, transparency, and conference building on military matters, and encourages regional disarmament efforts. It also provides information on UN disarmament efforts. The ODA supports the development and implementation of practical disarmament measures after a conflict, such as disarming and demobilizing former combatants and helping them to reintegrate into civil society. Now, whenever you go to read this stuff, when it talks about disarmament, it talks a lot about nuclear disarmament, right? Even though no nuclear weapons are ever really disarmed. There's a lot of talk about all that stuff, but then we also have this. And this is the small arms control that I was reading that, well, I'll probably read this paragraph here and we'll continue this tomorrow because there's still a while to go on this. The best way to reduce diversion from the civilian stockpile to the illegal market is to reduce the size of the civilian stockpile, slow the arming of the population, and strengthen regulation of civilian ownership. Reducing the number of owners is reducing the number of potential points of diversion. Strengthening controls makes it much harder for guns to migrate into the criminal market. For example, a regulatory framework without firearm registration enables an owner to sell the weapon to a private buyer easily without having to consider whether the buyer is legally authorized to acquire it. On the other hand, a regime that includes firearms registration necessarily imposes a higher degree of responsibility. The gun is registered in the seller's name with the state. Thus, the seller cannot transfer the ownership unless the state confirms the buyer is authorized to acquire the weapon. This measure of firearm registration is perhaps the single most effective tool in stopping diversion of illegal small arms from civilians. Their use of the word civilian is what scares me. That dehumanizes people. Oh, you're just a civilian. Look at this. The other provisions are also anti-diversion, anti-trafficking measures by stopping people from acquiring large numbers of guns and ensuring that the purchase or disposal of a gun is not a decision to be taken lightly. National firearm laws should recognize small arms as a product manufactured for killing, therefore product requiring strict control. Why do you think there's a lot of talk that, oh, guns are manufactured for killing? Well, the way I see it, they were manufactured, and I bought them personally to prevent from being killed if I ever had to defend myself. So, but tomorrow I will come on and we'll continue this. Because this is the job of the UN Office of Disarmament Affairs. Just the UN in general. Small arms ownership. Conventional weapons, your rifle, your pistol, your shotgun. But we'll end it here. Let's pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not unto temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and glory forever and ever. Amen.